Hey folks, today we're discussing The Sun Rising, a poem by John Donne. You can see the dates. We're going back to the 16th century, early 17th century. And John Donne was known as today we call him anyway, not then, but today we call him a metaphysical poet. And this came from T.S. Eliot, a 20th century critic and poet himself, very well-known poet. And metaphysical refers to metaphysics, which is a branch of philosophy that a lot of people consider really convoluted, elaborate, difficult. And so T.S. Eliot used this term metaphysical to apply to the poet John Donne and several poets who were writing in that period, similar in style. And it refers to the fact that he uses a lot of conceits. Now, you guys know from our previous discussion in class, a conceit is an extended metaphor, a comparison that kind of goes on, okay, in one way or another. And some of these conceits could be extremely complicated. And the poems could be difficult, awkward sometimes, and hard to follow. But usually, particularly with good writers like John Donne and Andrew Marvell, he's also considered a metaphysical poet, the payoff was great if you hung in there. And so we're going to be looking right now at one John Donne poem. We may do another called The Flea, which is a lot of fun in a lot of ways. Now this poem, the theme is not difficult. It's to celebrate his love, or the love between him and his lover. And so let's just go through it and see how it goes. One of the things we're going to be looking for, which is typical of a lot of metaphysical poems, is what's called a reversal, where by the end of the poem, things change. The tone, the mood, the emotion, and maybe even the physical setup reverses in some way. And this poem fits into that category. So we start out, and the speaker is addressing the sun, and he's irritated, calling him names, calling him busy old fool, and unruly, which means badly disciplined, badly behaving. What has the sun done to deserve this? Well, the sun has come through the window, shined through the curtains, and woke up him and his lover. And they've obviously had a busy night, and they're tired out, and so they're irritable. They don't want to be woken up by the sun or anything else. Let's pick it up. Busy old fool, unruly sun, why dost thou thus? Why do you thus? Thou is you, dust is do. Why dost thou thus through windows and through curtains call on us? Why are you visiting us? Why are you coming through the curtains and waking us up? Must to thy means your, must to your motions, lovers, seasons run? Do we have to get up and go to bed according to your motion, your movements? Which is typically what happens in the world, right? We do tend to go to bed and get up according to the sun. But he's questioning that because these are two lovers. They have their own schedule to follow, their own path of lovemaking and sleeping whenever they want. Now he takes his irritation to the next level. He calls the sun saucy, pedantic wretch. Now, again, you guys should always look up vocabulary you're not familiar with. Now, saucy just means kind of like, sharp, irritating. Pedantic is when someone tries to tell you what to do. Teachy, preachy. Some teachers are pedantic. My wife might say I'm pedantic. Maybe you think I'm pedantic. And the sun, he's saying the sun is pedantic because the sun is telling them when to get up and when to go to bed. And wretch. Wretch means a ruined person. Oh, yeah, terrible. Saucy, pedantic wretch. Go chide late schoolboys. Now, chide, again, another vocabulary word that a lot of you might have trouble with, so look up these words. Chide means to criticize or to nag. Empty the garbage. Do it now. Why aren't you studying your homework? Critical, nagging, etc. So go chide the late schoolboys, those boys who are late for school. Wake them up, get them moving, chide them. and the sour apprentices. Now, an apprentice, some of you know, is someone who usually they signed a contract, okay, and they would work for a master in some trade, whether it be blacksmithing or printing or something else, basket weaving, candle making, whatever it was, and they'd learn the business. And eventually they would, quote, graduate, and they would become their own masters. But while they were not masters, while they were apprentices, they had to do all the terrible work, clean the toilets, sweep the floor, get me some coffee, whatever it was. I don't know if they had coffee back then to get. So that's why they're sour, because the master, who can beat them if they don't perform, makes them do all this terrible work. They never get to rest. So they're sour. They're irritable, not happy. So son, and they have to get up early to get things going in the business, in the office. So son, wake up the schoolboys, wake up the apprentices. Don't wake us up. So the lovers are in their bed, and the world is out there. Go out there. Stay away from us. In fact, he expands it from the schoolboys and the sour apprentices. He talks about the court huntsman. Now, you may have seen some videos at some point or some silly movie where the king goes hunting for the fox, the fox hunt. They wake up in the morning and people on their horses blow the bugle or the trumpet, and all of the entourage of the king, they get on their horses and they're all dressed up and they follow the king behind and they go out hunting the fox. Okay. So these are the court huntsmen, the entourage. Wake them up. The king's going to get out there and ride to do some hunting. Get them out of bed so they can do their entourage duties and follow the king. Or why not go talk to the farmers? He calls them ants. He's putting them down. You notice he kind of puts everybody down. The schoolboys, the apprentices, the silly huntsmen, the farmers who he calls ants because they have to scurry around doing farming stuff. And in this case, the harvest is coming. Now in that line, the word offices, harvest offices, that means duties. Offices, many of these words have more than one meanings, of course, and the word offices means duties. So again, dictionary is your friend with poetry. So call the farmers to go out and do the harvest. Get them out of bed. But we're different, he says. Love, and we are in, my lover and I, we're in a world of love. We are different. It says, love all alike, no season knows. We don't know any season, whether it's fall, harvest time, summer, winter, whatever. We don't know whether it's sunrise, sunset. We're just all wrapped up in ourselves. We don't know any season or climate. Nothing. We don't know the hours of the day, the days of the week, the months of the year. Those aren't important to us. Those are the rags of time. So that's what he says. Love all alike, no season knows nor clime, nor hours, days, months, which are the rags of time. So there's our first stanza. The lovers are apart. The speaker is irritable. He's saying, go out there in the world, separate from us, and deal with all that stuff. Leave us alone. But things are going to reverse. Let's go to stanza 2. And they're going to reverse quickly in this little three stanza poem. And he says to the sun, thy beams, your light beams, your sunbeams, are they so holy, so reverend and strong? Really? Why shouldst thou think? Why should you think that? Thy beams so reverend and strong, why shouldst thou think? He says, I could, you know what an eclipse is? That's when the moon comes in front of the sun or something like that. I could eclipse them, your beams, and cloud them just by winking. Just close my eyes. Poof. I've eclipsed you. I could eclipse and cloud them with a wink. So they're not so strong. They're not so great. Why don't I do that? Well, in the next line he says why. But I don't want to lose sight of her, even for that microsecond. But that I would not lose her sight so long. I don't want to lose sight of my lover, even for the slightest amount of time. And then he builds on this. And one of the ways you compliment your lover is to say, her eyes are like the sun or bright. That was the way they did back then. Not dreamy and moon-like, but sun-like. They're bright and lovely. And so her eyes are so bright, maybe they can blind the sun's own eyes because they're so bright, So he says, if her eyes have not blinded yours, thine means yours, Well, look, and tomorrow, late in the day, tomorrow late, tell me, whether both the Indias of spice and mine be where you left them, be where thou leftest them, or whether they lie here with me, in bed with me. Now, the Indias of spice, we're talking about the Spice Islands, and we know spice is kind of nice. Okay, spice is nice. Right. I guess there's a couple of islands there. But he's talking about his India of spice, whether both the Indias of spice and mine. Well, who is his India of spice? Well, it's his lover. She's his spice girl. Spicy, lovely, tasty, right? A little love talk there. Or whether they're both of them where you left them yesterday, son, Mr. Sun, or whether now they're here with me in the bed. So I got my girl, I got the Indias of spice. They're both spicy. Delicious. And then he pushes it even further. He says, well, ask for the kings, those ones who were going to ride and hunt the fox. Ask for those kings whom you saw yesterday, whom thou sawest yesterday. And you shall hear, thou shalt hear, all here in one bed way. So we have a reversal underway here. In stanza 1, he was telling the sun to go away to that world that's out there. And now suddenly the world is in his bed. The kings are in his bed. All here in one bed lay. And he's not telling the sun to go away. He's saying, hey, stick around maybe. In fact, that's what he says in stanza 3. Now it's interesting how quickly this reversal happens. Suddenly, he and his lover are the entire world. They're not just in bed with him, they are the world. He says, she is all states, and all princes I. I'm all the kings. And then he says, nothing else is. Now that is a profound statement of love, isn't it? When you're deeply in love, passionately in love, the first blush of love, does anything else matter? Don't you think you and her are the world? We are the world. I don't know. Nothing else matters. Many of you have been in that condition. It's a kind of sickness, isn't it? A kind of disease that's going to get you in the end. But it sure is great while it lasts, isn't it? And that's what he's talking about. She's all states and all princes I. Nothing else is. Princes do but play us. The princes only mimic us. Let me see how much time I've got left on this video. I might have to stop. I've been taking my time. We've got a couple minutes. Let me finish it off and then I can stop. So, compared to this, he says in the third line of the stanza, princes and kings they're acting like us because we're the real deal. All honor is imitation because we are the only thing that's really honorable. All wealth is alchemy. Alchemy means fool's gold, stuff that's not real, gold that's not real. We're the real deal. We're all wealth. And then he invites the sun to remain. He says, you, Mr. Sun, thou sun, art half as happy as we are, because the world is shrunk down into our bed. Thou sun art half as happy as we, in that the world's contracted thus. And because you're old, the sun's pretty old. How many billion years old? 4 billion, whatever. He says, your old age, ask ease. You got to take it easy because you're old. And since thy duties be in warming the world, you can do that just by warming us because we are the world. You don't have to go rolling around the universe. So he says, shine here to us, and thou art everywhere. This bed thy center is, these walls thy sphere. So at the end of this poem, instead of being irritated and asking the sun to go away, he wants the sun to stay in that bed with them. That's a major reversal, right? So 2 reversals. The world goes from outside to inside, to the effect that we are the world. And then emotionally, he says, stay here with us now and warm the world, warm us. Finally, the image, thy sphere. The sphere was a symbol of perfection and considered that in Elizabethan times. And here it's a symbol of their perfect love. This bed thy center is, these walls thy sphere. Thank you very much.